I'm Clinton Griffiths. Talks are underway in London right now between U.S. and Chinese officials in an effort to stop the latest trade battle between the two countries. Among the U.S. officials taking part, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and Trade Representative Ambassador Jamieson Greer. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me. Michelle, what are the chances progress could come from these meetings?
Clinton, trade officials are cautiously optimistic about any major progress as part of the talks, and President Trump has even warned the same. However, the first step is for the world's two largest economies to at least call a truce to the trade war. So this meeting was important, and the same hope surrounds possible progress on talks with other countries. The U.S. and China are at a critical make-or-break juncture when it comes to trade. While some tariffs have been delayed, those in place have nearly halted U.S. exports to China, including ag goods.
The tariffs right now are around 23%. I think they had reduced the tariff rate to 10% in the so-called truce, but that also, on top of that, were the 10% that the so-called fentanyl tariffs that were on, plus the 3% tariff that's normal. So that's 23%. That's compared to 28% during 2018-19. That's not good.
Glauber, former USDA chief economist, says as a result, China's been buying South American soybeans and posted record imports for May at nearly 14 million metric tons.
We have no sales really on the books for next year.
So he says stopping the trade war before the U.S. harvest season for soybeans is critical.
And we are very close to that time of year where we start sending a lot of soybeans to China, a lot of other agricultural products. And so the last thing we want is a lot of tariffs that impede the flow into China on those products, because that will really disrupt markets like they did in 2018, 2019.
Even if China and the U.S. declare a truce and lower tariffs, Glauber warns it could take a while to reach a deal.
It really wasn't until almost a year and a half later, after those tariffs first came on, that we really saw we finally got to the so-called phase one agreement.
In fact, he says none of the current trade talks with any other countries will lead to immediate deals or ag purchases.
I was a trade negotiator for the U.S. Trade Reps Office in 2007, 2008. Doing the Doha talks, and all I can say is trade agreements take a long time, and there's a lot of details that have to be worked out in a trade agreement.
And while the trade awaits the appeals court ruling on the legality of tariffs, Glauber doesn't think the outcome will change the trade trajectory with China or any other country. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for Ag Day.